The emergency signal came at 400 station time, cutting through the quiet hum of the monitoring station like a knife. Dr. Veshkara jerked awake at her desk, her four eyes focusing on the screens that had suddenly filled with red warning lights. "What in the void?" she muttered, her long fingers dancing across the controls. The Velcrin scientist had been monitoring this sector of space for 12 years, and nothing interesting had ever happened. Until now, the signal was coming from Sol System, the quarantined zone, the place where humans lived. Veshkara felt her heart skip a beat. Humans were not supposed to be able to send signals this far. They were classified as pre-FTL, meaning they couldn't travel faster than light. They were stuck in their own star system under observation, deemed too dangerous for contact. The Galactic Council had decided this 200 years ago after watching humans fight terrible wars and build weapons that could destroy their own planet. But this signal was strong. Very strong. She pulled up the data and her breath caught. The signal wasn't coming from one ship. The readings showed thousands of sources, thousands, all broadcasting emergency, codes in multiple languages and mathematical patterns that screamed for attention across the void of space. "This can't be right," she whispered, running the scan again. The same result. Veshkara hit the emergency alert button. Within minutes, her supervisor materialized on the communication screen, looking annoyed at being woken up. "This better be important, Veshkara." "Sir, Sol System. The humans. They're broadcasting an emergency signal. A big one." The supervisor's expression changed from annoyed to alert. "Show me." She transferred the data, watched his face shift through several emotions as he processed what he was seeing. "Get this to the council. Now." 3 hours later, Veshkara stood in the council chamber, a massive circular room where representatives from 40 different species gathered to make decisions. The air was thick with tension, and the smell of various alien biologies mixed together. High Arbiter Quentel, a tall being covered in silver scales, stood at the center platform. His voice boomed through the chamber. "We are here to discuss the signal from Sol System. Dr. Veshkara, present your findings." She stepped forward, trying not to feel intimidated by all the eyes watching her. "The signal began at 400 this morning. It contains emergency distress markers in 47 different languages, evacuation coordinates, and mathematical sequences. The source appears to be thousands of vessels, all human." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. One council member, a being made of crystalline structures, spoke up. "That's impossible. Humans are pre-FTL. They shouldn't have thousands of vessels. They shouldn't even have the ability to send a signal this far." "I know," Veshkara said, "but the data doesn't lie. Something big is happening in Sol System." A blue-skinned delegate stood up. "Perhaps they discovered FTL technology. Maybe they're preparing to break quarantine? Or maybe they're under attack," another voice called out. Quentel raised his hand for silence. "Dr. Veshkara, you're the council's leading expert on humans. What do you think is happening?" Veshkara brought up holographic displays showing Earth's recent history as the council had observed it. Images of cities, wars, space stations, and nuclear explosions floated in the air. "Humans are aggressive," she began. "They fight each other constantly. They build terrible weapons. 200 years ago, we decided they were too dangerous for contact. We put them under quarantine and observation protocols." She paused. "But they're also incredibly adaptive. In the time we've been watching them, they've gone from basic spaceflight to building orbital habitats. They've established colonies on their moon and Mars. They build and innovate at a speed we've never seen in any other species." "So what does this signal mean?" Quentel asked. "I don't know," Veshkara admitted, "but I think we need to find out. If they're in trouble, they might need help. If they're breaking quarantine, we need to know why." Commander Zixoth stepped forward from the military section. He was a crawl warrior, built like a mountain with scales that looked like armor. "I say we send a battle fleet. Humans are dangerous. If they're mobilizing, we need to be ready for aggression. Or," Veshkara countered, "we could send a scout fleet. Observe. Gather information before we make assumptions." The debate went on for 2 more hours. Finally, Quentel made his decision. "We send a scout fleet with military escort. Commander Zixoth will lead the mission. Dr. Veshkara will accompany a scientific advisor. You will observe, gather data, and report back. Under no circumstances are you to engage unless attacked." "Understood." Zixoth nodded, looking disappointed. Veshkara felt relief. At least they weren't going in with weapons blazing. The fleet assembled quickly. 5 scout vessels and 3 military cruisers. As they prepared to jump to FTL, Veshkara sat in her quarters reviewing everything the Council knew about humans. They were violent, yes. But watching the old footage, she saw something else. When disasters struck, humans helped each other. When one of their space stations had an accident, humans from every nation rushed to help. They were tribal and fought among themselves, but when facing an outside threat, they unified. She pulled up footage of their world wars. Horrible, bloody conflicts, but humans had ended them. They'd built weapons that could destroy their world, then chose not to use them again after seeing the devastation. They'd created something called the United Nations to try to prevent future wars. They were contradictory. Violent yet compassionate, aggressive yet capable of great cooperation. They built weapons of mass destruction and beautiful art. They were chaos and order mixed together. What would drive such a species to send an emergency signal across space? The ship shuddered as it entered FTL. 3 days to Sol system. Veshkara spent those days analyzing the signal. The more she studied it, the more impressed she became. The mathematical sequences were elegant. The multi-language broadcast showed sophisticated translation protocols, and underneath it all was something that made her scales tingle with unease. Desperation. This wasn't a casual signal. This was a species screaming into the void. On the 3rd day, they dropped out of FTL at the edge of Sol system. Commander Zixoth called all senior staff to the bridge. Veshkara arrived to find the entire crew staring at the main view screen in stunned silence. By the ancestors, someone whispered. The view showed Sul, system's outer reaches, and it was filled with ships. Not dozens, not hundreds. Thousands upon thousands of vessels of all sizes and shapes. Some were clearly military, bristling with weapons. Others were massive, blocky things that had to be colony ships or transport vessels. Still others looked like they'd been cobbled together from industrial equipment, and they were all moving. Organizing into formation, preparing for something. Long-range scan, Zixoth ordered, his voice tight. The scan results came back and Veshkara felt her legs go weak. The readings showed massive industrial activity throughout the entire system. Orbital stations being dismantled. Asteroid mining facilities being broken down and loaded onto ships. Even parts of the Mars colonies were being packed up. They're not breaking quarantine, she said quietly. They're evacuating. The entire species is evacuating. Zixoth turned to her. Why? What could make an entire species abandon their home system? Before she could answer, the communication officer called out. Commander, we're being hailed. Audio only. It's in Standard Galactic Common. Everyone froze. Humans shouldn't know Standard Galactic Common. They'd never had contact with the Council. Put it through, Zixoth said. A human voice speaking accented but clear Standard filled the bridge. Unknown vessels, this is Earth Unified Defense Force. You have entered an active evacuation zone. For your own safety, maintain current distance and state your intentions. We don't want any trouble, but we can't stop. We won't stop. Humanity is on the move. The transmission ended. Veshkara and Zixoth locked eyes across the bridge. The same thought ran through both their minds. What exactly had humanity become in the centuries they'd been ignored? Commander Zixoth didn't respond to the human transmission immediately. Instead, he ordered the scout fleet to move closer, slowly, while maintaining what he hoped was a non-threatening posture. The ships advanced into Sol system like cautious prey animals, approaching a waterhole. What they found shocked everyone aboard. The inner system was a hive of activity that put most Galactic Council operations to shame. Earth's orbital space was packed with stations, shipyards, and construction platforms. But they weren't building. They were tearing everything down with brutal efficiency. Dr. Veshkara watched through the scanners as massive space stations were cut into sections and loaded onto transport ships. Solar panel arrays the size of cities were being folded up and stored. Even satellites were being collected by specialized vessels. They're taking everything, she breathed. Every single thing they built in space is being packed up. Look at Mars, the sensor officer said, highlighting the red planet on the display. Mars had several domed colonies visible on the surface. Humans were dismantling those too. Vehicles moved across the rust-colored surface, loading equipment onto massive cargo ships that waited nearby. How long has this been going on? Zixoth asked. Veshkara pulled up spectral analysis data from the system. Based on the industrial signatures and heat readings, I'd say they've been working on this for at least 15 to 20 years. Maybe longer. 20 years, Zixoth repeated slowly. They built an evacuation fleet for their entire species in 20 years? The communication officer interrupted. Commander, we're picking up human radio traffic. It's everywhere. They're not even trying to hide their communications. Can you translate it? Veshkara asked. Already running it through the language database. Give me a moment. The officer worked at their console, then put the translated audio through the bridge speakers. The bridge filled with human voices. Comm professional coordinating massive operations. Transport Group 7, you're cleared for Jupiter orbital departure. Safe travels, roger that, Control. See you at New Hope Colony. Mining Station Series, this is Command. Finish loading operations within 12 hours. The convoy leaves at 600. Understood, Command. We'll be ready. Civilian Transport Unity reporting engine trouble. Requesting maintenance drone assist. Unity, help is on the way. Stay calm. We'll get you fixed up. Veshkara listened with growing amazement. There was no panic in those voices, no fear. Just determination and efficiency. These humans were coordinating an exodus of billions of people, and they sounded like they were running a standard shipping operation. Intercept more of their communications, Zixoth ordered. I want to know what they're running from. Over the next few hours, they pieced together the story from intercepted messages, data transmissions, and public broadcasts that humans were sending to each other. 23 years ago, human scientists had detected something. A massive stellar anomaly heading toward their sun. They called it the Wanderer, a rogue object with incredible mass, possibly a collapsed star core or a black hole wrapped in debris. Whatever it was, its path would take it close enough to Sol's sun to destabilize it within 50 years. Earth would become uninhabitable long before that. The gravitational effects would start causing problems within 30 years. Humanity had two choices: die or leave. They chose to leave. All of them. The Galactic Council's first contact protocol said that when a species reached this level of crisis, the Council would help evacuate them. But humans didn't know the Council existed. They'd been quarantined, watched from a distance but never contacted. So humanity did what they always did when faced with extinction. They adapted. They unified. They built. Veshkara accessed old observation reports to fill in the gaps. 23 years ago, Earth's nations had stopped fighting each other. Every war ended almost overnight. Every space program combined. Every corporation and government pooled their resources into something humans called the Exodus Project. They'd built shipyards in space. Massive construction platforms around Earth, Mars, and the asteroid belt. They'd converted their military into a construction and logistics force. They'd trained millions of people as pilots, engineers, and colonists. They'd sent out scout ships in every direction, searching for planets they could live on. They'd found several systems with potentially habitable worlds and established preliminary bases on them. These colony sites were rough, barely livable, but humans were determined to make them work, and they'd built ships. Thousands and thousands of ships. Look at this, Veshkara said, pulling up specifications she'd managed to hack from a human database. Their largest colony ships can carry 50,000 people each. They have over 100 of those, plus thousands of smaller transports, cargo vessels, military escort ships, and mobile construction platforms. Zixoth studied the data with a warrior's eye. Their military vessels are crude but effective. Kinetic weapons, nuclear missiles, basic energy shields. Nothing fancy, but in large numbers they'd be dangerous. They built all of this in 20 years, Veshkara repeated, still unable to believe it. It took my people 500 years to develop spacefaring civilization. The Krull needed 600. Humans went from basic space stations to an interstellar evacuation fleet in 2 decades. They had motivation, Zixoth said grimly. Fear is a powerful teacher. A junior officer called out from the scanning station. Commander, we're detecting movement in the inner system. A large fleet is assembling near Earth. The view screen shifted to show the planet itself. Beautiful blue and white swirled with clouds, and surrounding it like a protective shell were hundreds of warships. Those are their military escorts, Veshkara realized. They're organizing the civilian convoy. That must be the main evacuation fleet. As they watched, massive colony ships began detaching from Earth's orbital stations. Each one was the size of a small city, carrying tens of thousands of humans. The military ships formed protective formations around them. How many people are they moving? Someone asked. Veshkara did the calculation. Earth's population is approximately 8 billion. Based on the ship capacity we've observed, they're attempting to evacuate everyone, every single human. The bridge was silent for a moment, everyone processing that number. 8 billion individuals. An entire species pulling up roots and heading into unknown space. Where are they going? Zixoth asked. Veshkara traced the trajectory data they'd collected. Her eyes widened. Commander, their course will take them directly toward Council space. They've found habitable worlds in our territory. Do they know it's Council space? I don't think they know the Council exists. They just found worlds they can survive on, and they're heading there. Zixoth's expression hardened. So they're about to invade Council space with a fleet of thousands of ships and billions of refugees, and they don't even know we exist. They're not invading, Veshkara protested. They're fleeing for their lives. The Council won't see the difference. A new transmission came through, this time directed at the scout fleet. The same human voice from before, but now with more urgency. Unknown vessels, you have been observing us for several hours. We know you're there. We're transmitting coordinates for a neutral meeting location. If you want to talk, we're willing. But understand this, we have no choice but to continue our evacuation. If you try to stop us, we will defend ourselves. We don't want conflict, but we won't let our species die because of politics we don't understand. Respond within 1 hour. The transmission ended. Zixoth looked at Veshkara. They're giving us an ultimatum. They're desperate, she corrected. And they're right. They don't have a choice. That stellar anomaly is real. I can confirm it on our long-range scans. Sol's sun will become unstable. We need to report this to the High Arbiter immediately. Agreed. But what do we tell him? Zixoth stared at the view screen, watching the human fleet organize itself with impressive coordination. We tell him the truth. Humanity has mobilized for survival. They're coming toward Council space with a fleet that could match our border defense forces. They don't know we exist, don't care about our laws, and won't be stopped. He paused, then added quietly, and we tell him that if I were in their position, I'd do exactly the same thing. Veshkara began composing the report, but her mind was racing. The Galactic Council would never allow an unauthorized species to just move into their territory. But how could they turn away billions of refugees fleeing extinction? And more importantly, could they even stop humanity if they tried? She had a feeling they were about to find out. On Earth below, Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the colony ship UES Resilience, looking at her home planet for the last time. In 3 days, her convoy of civilian ships would depart. 50,000 people were counting on her to get them safely to New Hope Colony. She touched the window, sang a silent goodbye to Earth, then she turned back to her crew. All stations prepare for departure sequence. Let's bring our people home to a new world. The neutral meeting location was a small moon orbiting a gas giant in the outer system. Commander Zixoth's scout ship approached slowly, flanked by 2 escort vessels. On the surface of the moon, a human shuttle had already landed. Dr. Veshkara felt her heart's pounding as she prepared to meet humans for the first time. 2 centuries of quarantine were about to end in the most unexpected way possible. Are you nervous? Zixoth asked her as they suited up. Terrified, she admitted. We've watched them from a distance for so long, studied their violence, their wars. Now we're going to sit across from them and talk. Remember, they asked for this meeting. They want to talk, not fight. I hope you're right. They descended to the moon's surface in a small shuttle. The human vessel was already there, a blocky, functional design that looked nothing like the elegant council ships. It looked like it had been built for purpose, not beauty. As they stepped out onto the moon's dusty surface, a door opened on the human shuttle. 3 figures emerged, wearing spacesuits that looked heavy and primitive compared to Galactic Council technology, but they worked, and that was all that mattered. The lead human raised a hand in what Veshkara recognized from her studies as a greeting gesture. They walked toward a portable shelter that humans had set up between the 2 ships. Inside the shelter, they removed their helmets. Veshkara got her first real look at a living human. The lead human was male with dark skin and gray hair at his temples. His face showed lines of stress and exhaustion, but his eyes were sharp and intelligent. He smiled, showing white teeth. I'm Ambassador Marcus Webb, representing the Earth Unified Government. Thank you for agreeing to meet. Zixoth introduced himself and Veshkara. They sat across a simple table from each other, two species meeting for the first time under circumstances neither had expected. "You speak our language," Veshkara said, unable to hide her curiosity. "How?" Webb's smile widened slightly. "We've been listening. For decades we've detected radio signals from space, broadcast in languages that weren't human. We recorded everything, built databases, developed translation matrices. When we realized we'd need to evacuate, we knew there had to be other intelligent life out here. We wanted to be able to talk to you when we met." "You knew about us?" Zixoth asked, surprised. "We knew someone was out there. We didn't know it was a galactic council with laws and territories. We just knew we weren't alone." Webb leaned forward. "Now I think it's time we were honest with each other. You've been watching us. How long?" Veshkara glanced at Zixoth, who nodded. 200 years. Since you developed nuclear weapons. The Council classified you as pre-FTL and potentially dangerous. You were placed under quarantine and observation protocols." Webb's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Anger, maybe, or disappointment. "You watched us for 200 years and never made contact. You watched us nearly destroy ourselves in wars and said nothing. You watched us struggle to reach space and didn't help." "Council protocols," Zixoth said stiffly. "Species must reach certain development milestones before contact. And now we're evacuating our entire species and you're here. Is that a milestone?" The tension in the room was thick. Veshkara spoke carefully. "Ambassador Webb, we didn't know about your crisis until your emergency signal. We came to investigate. We want to understand what's happening." Webb pulled out a data device and slid it across the table. "Everything you need to know is there. The stellar anomaly, our evacuation plans, our colony sites. We have nothing to hide." Zixoth picked up the device, scanning the data. His expression grew serious as he read. "You've established colonies on 3 worlds already. Preliminary bases, yes. We sent advanced teams 5 years ago." "These worlds," Veshkara said, looking at the coordinates, "they're in council space. And according to our records, they were surveyed and deemed uninhabitable. Too high gravity, extreme temperatures, toxic atmospheres." Webb nodded. "Uninhabitable for you, maybe. Difficult for us, but not impossible. We've adapted. We're already growing food there, processing the atmospheres, building permanent structures. In another 10 years, those worlds will be fully habitable by our standards." "How?" Veshkara couldn't hide her amazement. "Species don't just adapt to new worlds that quickly. We don't have time to do it slowly," Webb said simply. "We adapt or we die. Humans have always been good at adapting." Zixoth set down the data device. "Ambassador Webb, I need to be direct with you. The Galactic Council has laws. You cannot simply move into council space without authorization. There are protocols, integration processes, evaluations. These things take time. How much time?" Webb asked. 50 years minimum. Probably longer." Webb's expression hardened. "We don't have 50 years. We have less than 30 before Earth becomes uninhabitable. We're moving our people now." "We've already started." "Then we have a problem," Zixoth said. "If you enter council space without authorization, it will be seen as an invasion. Military forces will be deployed." "To do what?" "Stop us? Kill us?" Webb's voice was calm, but there was steel underneath. "We're not invading. We're surviving. We found empty worlds that nobody wanted, and we're making them livable. We're not taking anything from anyone. The law doesn't see it that way. Then the law is going to have a problem." The two stared at each other across the table. Veshkara felt panic rising. This was going wrong. They needed to find a compromise. "Ambassador Webb," she said quickly, "what if we could arrange for you to settle those worlds legitimately? What if the Council ceded them to humanity? They're worthless to us but valuable to you." "In exchange for what?" Webb asked, turning to her. "Recognition of Council authority. Agreement to follow Council laws. Integration into the galactic community as a member species." Webb considered this. "We'd have to discuss it with our government, but I can tell you right now, we won't agree to anything that delays our evacuation. Our people are already on the move. The first major convoy leaves Earth in 2 days." "That's too fast," Zixoth protested. "We need time to discuss this with the High Arbiter to get Council approval." "Then you'd better talk fast," Webb said. "Because with or without approval, humanity is moving. We'll follow your laws if we can, we'll be good neighbors if you let us, but we won't sit still and die waiting for permission to live." Veshkara's mind was racing. This was unprecedented. A species essentially forcing its way into council space out of pure necessity. But what choice did they have? "Commander," she said to Zixoth in their own language, "he's right. We can't stop them, not really. Look at the fleet data. They have thousands of ships, many of them armed. If we try to block them by force, people will die, both theirs and ours." "I know," Zixoth replied, also in their language. "But I have orders." The council was clear. Webb interrupted them. "I understand you're in a difficult position, but let me make something very clear." He pulled up a holographic display from his data device. It showed the human fleet in all its massive scale. "This is Convoy Group Alpha. 3,000 ships, 200 million people. It leaves Earth orbit in 48 hours. Behind it are groups Beta, Gamma, Delta, and 20 others. Over the next year, we'll move 8 billion people to new homes." He zoomed in on the military escorts. "These are our defense forces. We built them to protect our people from pirates, radiation storms, and any other threats we might encounter. We hoped we'd never have to use them against another intelligent species." The implication was clear. "Humans would fight if forced to. We don't want war," Webb continued. "We want peace. We want to join your council as friends and equals. But make no mistake, if you try to stop our evacuation, you will have to go through every ship, every person, every last human who refuses to let their species die. We've survived ice ages, plagues, and nuclear weapons. We'll survive this too." Zixoth was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood up. "I need to contact the High Arbiter immediately. This decision is beyond my authority." "I understand," Webb said, also standing. "You have 24 hours. After that, our convoy launches whether you're ready or not." As they prepared to leave, Veshkara turned back to Webb. "Ambassador, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Are you scared? You're taking your entire species into unknown space, facing potential conflict with a galactic council you didn't even know existed a few days ago." Webb smiled sadly. "Dr. Veshkara, I'm terrified. We all are. But fear doesn't get to make our decisions. Hope does, and we hope that when you and your council look at us, you'll see people just trying to survive, not enemies to be feared." "I see that," Veshkara said quietly. "I just hope the council does too." High Arbiter Quentel listened to Commander Zixoth's report with growing concern. Behind him, the full Galactic Council chamber was in chaos. Representatives from 40 species were all talking at once, arguing, panicking. "Silence." Quentel's voice boomed through the chamber. The noise died down. "We must approach this logically. Dr. Veshkara, you've studied humans. What do you recommend?" Veshkara stood from her seat, her voice steady despite her nervousness. "High Arbiter, I recommend we allow the humans to settle the 3 worlds they've chosen. These planets have been classified as uninhabitable by our standards for decades. No one wants them. If humans can survive there, let them. And set a precedent for any species to just move into council space whenever they want," a delegate shouted. "That's chaos." "They're facing extinction," Veshkara shot back. "This isn't about ignoring our laws. It's about recognizing that sometimes survival has to come first." The crystalline delegate from before spoke up. "We should send the battle fleet. Show them they can't just push their way into council space." "With respect," Zixoth interrupted, "I don't think that would end well. I've seen their fleet. They have numbers and they're clearly willing to fight if necessary. Any battle would cost lives on both sides. So we just surrender our authority?" Another voice called out. The argument was going in circles. Quentel was about to call for order again when a junior technician burst into the chamber, something that had never happened in council history. "High Arbiter, emergency! The stellar anomaly the humans detected." Everyone fell silent. "What about it?" Quentel asked. The technician was breathing hard, his skin flushed with fear. "Our science teams analyzed it using deep space arrays. It's not natural. It's artificial." The chamber erupted in shock. Veshkara felt ice run through her veins. "Explain," Quentel commanded. The technician brought up a holographic display. It showed the massive object heading toward Sol system, but now with enhanced scans. They could see structures within it. Ancient, broken, but definitely manufactured. "It's a planet-killer weapon," the technician said. "From the old war, we think. The conflict that ended the progenitor civilization 60,000 years ago. We've found references to these weapons in ancient texts, but we thought they were all destroyed." "This one wasn't," Veshkara whispered. "Worse," the technician continued, his voice shaking. "We plotted its trajectory. Before it reaches Sol system, it will pass through Council space. It will come within range of 17 inhabited worlds. The chamber exploded in panic. Representatives were shouting. Some were trying to leave. Others were demanding military action. Quentel struggled to maintain order. How long do we have? The weapon will reach the first Council world in 8 years. Sol system in 33 years, just like the humans calculated. Can we destroy it? We don't know. The progenitors built their weapons to last. It's been drifting for 60,000 years, and it's still functional. Our weapons might not be enough. Veshkara's mind was racing. The humans detected this before we did. How? The technician looked embarrassed. They've been actively scanning for extinction-level threats for decades. They built deep space monitoring networks specifically to find dangers like this. Our systems are designed to find ships and signals, not ancient weapons. They were looking because they were afraid, Zixoth said quietly. They've spent their entire history preparing for threats. We've spent ours assuming we were safe. Ambassador Webb's face appeared on the communication screen, transmitting from his shuttle. Hi, Arbiter. I've been listening to your emergency broadcast. My government has authorized me to make an offer. What kind of offer? Quentel asked, still trying to process everything. We'll help you, Webb said simply. Humanity will assist in defending Council worlds from this weapon. We'll share our detection technology, our weapons, and our experience dealing with existential threats. A delegate laughed bitterly. What can a pre-FTL species offer us? You're refugees fleeing your own system. Webb's expression didn't change. We're a species that spent the last 23 years preparing to fight extinction. We've built weapons specifically designed to destroy massive stellar objects. Nuclear-pumped kinetic missiles, antimatter warheads, and gravitational disruptors. We don't know if they'll work on that ancient weapon, but we're willing to try. Why would you help us? Quentel asked. We've done nothing for you. We watched your species struggle for 200 years and never offered assistance. Because it's the right thing to do, Webb said. And because that weapon is heading for our new homes too. We have 3 colonies in Council space now. If that thing destroys Council worlds, it will keep going and eventually reach us. This isn't charity. It's survival for all of us. Veshkara stood up. Hi, Arbiter, I support this proposal. We need every advantage we can get, and humans have experience we lack. They're primitives, someone shouted. They're survivors, Veshkara corrected. And right now, we need survivors. Quentel was quiet for a long moment, weighing his options. Finally, he spoke. Ambassador Webb, I accept your offer, provisionally. Send your technical specifications to our military command. We'll evaluate your weapons and decide how to proceed. Already transmitting, Webb said. And High Arbiter, about our evacuation convoys? Continue your evacuation. The 3 worlds you've chosen are officially ceded to humanity as temporary refuge, pending full Council integration. But Ambassador, if your people cause any trouble, this agreement ends. Understood? Understood. Thank you, High Arbiter. The communication ended. The Council chamber slowly emptied as delegates rushed off to prepare for the crisis. Veshkara found herself standing with Zixoth, both of them staring at the holographic display of the approaching weapon. They're going to fight with us, Zixoth said, sounding amazed. A species we've never helped, and they're volunteering to stand beside us. It's very human, Veshkara said. They see a threat, they fight it. They don't ask if it's fair or calculate the odds. They just fight. 3 days later, Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Resilience, watching her convoy of 50 ships jump to FTL. They were heading to New Hope Colony, carrying 50,000 civilians who would build a new life on a harsh world. But now they had company. 2 Galactic Council escort vessels had joined them, offering safe passage through Council space. Chen smiled. It was a start. Not friendship yet, but not war either. A beginning. Her communication officer called out, Captain, we're receiving a transmission from Earth Defense Force. They're requesting volunteers to join a joint task force with Council military. They're preparing to engage that ancient weapon. Chen looked at her second in command. We need to get our people to the colony safely. But after that? After that, ma'am, I think a lot of our crew will want to volunteer. That weapon threatens our new homes. We didn't come all this way just to let some ancient weapon destroy our future. Chen nodded. Send a message to Earth Defense Force. Tell them once we've delivered our passengers, the Resilience and her crew are available for military duty. She looked out at the stars rushing past. Humanity had left their home behind, but they hadn't left behind their fighting spirit. If that ancient weapon wanted to threaten their new worlds, it would learn what every enemy in human history had learned. Humans don't give up. They don't surrender. And they definitely don't let anyone destroy their future without a fight. Behind them, Earth continued its evacuation. Ahead of them, a new home waited. And between those 2 points, a threat loomed that would test both humanity and the Galactic Council. But for the first time in 200 years of isolation, humans weren't facing the threat alone. And for the first time in thousands of years, the Galactic Council had allies who understood what it truly meant to fight for survival. The combined fleet assembled in deep space, 3 light-years from the approaching weapon. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Resilience, which had been converted from a colony ship to a command vessel. Around her, 300 ships from 20 different species waited for orders. The human contribution was significant. 80 warships, each loaded with weapons that the Galactic Council had initially dismissed as primitive. Nuclear missiles, kinetic impactors, experimental antimatter bombs. But after seeing the data, Council military experts had reluctantly admitted these weapons might actually work. "All ships report ready," Chen's tactical officer announced. She opened a channel to the fleet. "This is Captain Chen. In 10 minutes, we engage the enemy. I know many of you have doubts about fighting alongside humans. I know some of you still think we're too aggressive, too violent, too primitive." She paused. "You're right. We are aggressive. We are violent. Because for our entire history, the universe has tried to kill us and we've refused to die. Today we bring that stubbornness to this fight. That weapon thinks it can destroy our worlds. It's about to learn what humans have known for millennia. Survival isn't about being the strongest or the smartest. It's about refusing to quit." She closed the channel. Across the fleet, alien crews listened to the translation and felt something they hadn't expected. Hope, Commander Zixoth, commanding a Kral battlecruiser, contacted Chen directly. "That was a good speech, Captain. You think it'll help?" "I think we'll need every bit of courage we can find. Long-range scans show the weapon is even more dangerous than we thought. Its shields are still functional after 60,000 years. Then we hit it with everything we have. That's a very human strategy. Do you have a better one?" Zixoth laughed, a sound like grinding stones. "No, let's try it your way." The weapon appeared on the scanners first, then on visual displays. It was massive, easily 20 kilometers across, a sphere of ancient metal covered in strange symbols from a dead civilization. As they watched, sections of it began to glow with a sickly green light. "It's detecting us," Dr. Veshikara said from the Council command ship where she was observing. "Its automated defenses are activating." The weapon fired first. Beams of coherent energy lanced across space, hitting 3 Council vessels. Their shields held, but barely. The power readings were terrifying. "All ships engage," Chen ordered. The fleet opened fire. Council energy weapons struck the ancient shields, creating brilliant flashes of light. Human kinetic missiles followed. Massive projectiles moving at a significant fraction of light speed. The weapon's shields flickered under the assault but held. "It's too strong," someone said over the fleet channel. "Then we hit it harder," Chen replied. She turned to her weapons officer. "Prepare nuclear barrage. All missiles." "Captain, that's our entire arsenal." "I know. Fire them." 50 nuclear missiles launched from the Resilience, each one carrying a warhead powerful enough to level a city. Other human ships did the same. The space between the fleet and the weapon filled with hundreds of nuclear missiles. The weapon's defenses opened fire, destroying many of the missiles. But not all of them. 37 warheads reached their target and detonated simultaneously. The nuclear fires were visible across light years. When the blast faded, the weapon's shields were down. "Now!" Zixoth roared. All ships concentrated fire on the northern hemisphere. Council energy weapons, no longer blocked by shields, began tearing into the ancient metal. Human kinetic impactors followed, punching through the damaged armor. But the weapon wasn't finished. It began spinning and new weapons emerged from hidden ports. Missiles, thousands of them, screamed toward the fleet. "Defensive maneuvers," Chen ordered. The battle dissolved into chaos. Ships scattered, dodging ancient missiles that moved with impossible speed. 3 Council vessels were destroyed. A human frigate took a direct hit and exploded. Chen watched her tactical display with cold calculation. They were losing ships, but the weapon was damaged. They just needed to press the attack. "Get me all human vessels," she ordered. 80 human ships acknowledged her call. Listen up. That thing is wounded, but it's killing us. We need to finish this fast. I'm ordering a close-range assault. Load all remaining kinetic weapons and prepare for ramming speed. Captain, her second-in-command said quietly, that's a suicide run. No, it's a survival run. If we don't stop this thing here, it will kill billions of people across 17 worlds. Our families. Our children. Everyone we brought to the colonies. She looked around the bridge at her crew. I'm not ordering anyone to follow me, but I'm going in. Ma'am, the helmsman said, we're all with you. Chen opened a fleet-wide channel. Council ships, this is Captain Chen. Human forces are executing a close-range assault. We'd appreciate covering fire, but we're going in whether you're ready or not. Before anyone could respond, she gave the order. All human ships attack speed. Target the damaged section. Let's end this. 80 human vessels accelerated toward the weapon. The ancient device fired everything it had, destroying ships with terrible efficiency. A destroyer exploded to Chen's left. A cruiser broke apart to her. Right, but humans kept coming. Zixoth watched, in awe and horror as human ships closed to point-blank range and fired their kinetic weapons directly into the weapon's damaged hull. Some ships, their weapons spent, simply accelerated harder and rammed into the ancient device. They're using their ships as weapons, someone said on his bridge, voice filled with disbelief. They're doing what they always do, Zixoth replied. Whatever it takes to win. The Resilience shook as it fired its last kinetic impactor into the weapon's core. The massive projectile punched through layers of ancient armor and detonated inside. All power to forward shields, Chen ordered. Brace for impact! The weapon exploded. Not all at once, but in a cascading series of detonations that tore it apart from the inside. The shockwave hit the Resilience like a hammer, throwing everyone to the deck. Alarms screamed as systems failed. When the sensors cleared, the weapon was gone. Just debris scattering across space. Damage report, Chen gasped, pulling herself back to her feet. Hull breaches on decks 7 through 12. Engines at 40%. Life support stable. Casualties? Her second-in-command checked the display, his face grim. Throughout the fleet, we lost 23 human ships, 14 council vessels, approximately 8,000 personnel. The bridge was silent. 8,000 lives. The price of victory. They'll be remembered, Chen said quietly. Send a message to all surviving ships. The threat is neutralized. Mission accomplished. 3 weeks later, Dr. Veshkara stood before the Galactic Council, presenting her final report on human integration. The battle proved what I've been trying to tell you, she said to the assembled delegates. Humans are not primitives. They're survivors. They think differently than we do. Where we calculate odds and plan careful strategies, they assess the situation and do whatever needs to be done, regardless of cost. High Arbiter Quintel nodded slowly. 23 human ships sacrificed themselves to destroy that weapon. Some of those ships simply rammed it when they ran out of weapons. That's humanity, Veshkara said. They don't surrender. They don't retreat. They win or they die trying. She paused. But they also showed mercy. After the battle, human medical ships were the first to reach our damaged vessels. They shared their supplies, their medical knowledge, their limited resources. They could have withheld help, demanded payment for their sacrifice. Instead, they helped because it was the right thing to do. I move that humanity be granted full council membership, Quintel announced. Not provisional status, full membership with all rights and responsibilities. Does anyone object? No one did. The vote was unanimous. 1 year later, Captain Sarah Chen walked through New Hope Colony with Ambassador Webb. The harsh world had been transformed. Domed cities dotted the landscape. Fields of genetically modified crops grew in the alien soil. Human children played in parks while their parents worked in factories and laboratories. 8 billion people, Webb said, looking at the colony. All relocated. All surviving. It took us 2 years, but we did it. And now we're council members, Chen added. Humans serving on council ships, joint research stations, trade agreements. Some people back on the colonies are already complaining about council bureaucracy, Webb said with a smile. Let them complain. It means we're alive to complain. Chen looked up at the alien sky. You know what Commander Zixoth said to me after the battle? What? He said humanity reminded him of an old crawl proverb. The stone that refuses to break becomes the mountain. Webb laughed. I like that. We refused to break, so we became something bigger. In orbit above them, human and council vessels patrolled together. In laboratories across Council space, human and alien scientists worked on joint projects. In classrooms, human children learned about 40 different alien species, while alien children learned about Earth's history. Humanity was on the move, just as the emergency signal had warned. But they weren't invading or fleeing anymore. They were building, growing, becoming part of something larger than themselves. Admiral Minho Park stared at the tactical display with growing dread. 47 red dots surrounded Kepler Station like angry wasps around a hive. Each dot represented a Vorthak warship, and each warship could destroy his entire fleet without breaking formation. "Sir, the alien fleet is moving into attack position," reported Communications Officer Taiho Kim from his station. His voice was steady, but Minho could see the young man's hands shaking as he worked his controls. Minho had 3 ships left. 3 aging human frigates against the most powerful alien armada ever seen. The math was simple and brutal. They were going to die today. "Captain Gina, status report," Minho called over the comm system. Captain Gina Choi's voice crackled through the speakers from her ship, Soul's Pride. "Hull integrity at 90%. Weapons charged and ready. My crew is prepared for battle, Admiral." Minho nodded. Gina was tough as steel and twice as sharp. If anyone could make the aliens pay for their victory, it was her. But even she couldn't work miracles against these odds. The Vorthak ships were like nothing humans had ever built. They looked alive, with curved hulls that pulsed with strange light. Biomechanical technology, the scientists called it. Living ships that could heal their own wounds and adapt to enemy weapons in the middle of a fight. "Incoming transmission from the alien flagship," Taiho announced. "Put it on screen." The main viewer flickered to life, showing a creature that gave Minho nightmares. Commander Veltar of the Vorthak hegemony stood 8 feet tall, with 4 arms and skin like black leather. His yellow eyes glowed with cold intelligence as he spoke in perfect accented English. "Human Admiral, I am Veltar. You have exactly 10 minutes to surrender this station and all its inhabitants. Comply and your deaths will be swift. Refuse and we will make your final hours a symphony of pain." Minho stepped forward, meeting those alien eyes without flinching. "This is Admiral Minho Park of the Earth Colonial Defense Force. Kepler Station is under human protection. If you want it, you'll have to take it from us." Veltar's mouth opened in what might have been a smile, showing rows of sharp teeth. "So be it. You will learn why 17 species have fallen before the hegemony." The transmission ended. "All ships, battle stations," Minho ordered. "Civilian Evacuation Protocol 7. Get those transports away from the station." Across Kepler Station, 50,000 colonists scrambled for escape pods and transport ships. But Minho knew the truth. The Vorthak fighters were already moving to cut off escape routes. Most of those people would never make it to safety. "Admiral, I'm reading energy spikes across their entire fleet," called sensor operator Yuki from her station. "They're charging weapons." The first volley came like green lightning. Plasma bolts the size of city buses screamed across space, slamming into the station's shields. The entire structure shook and lights flickered throughout the command center. "Return fire," Minho shouted. Soul's Pride opened up with everything she had. Missiles streaked toward the alien formation, while pulse cannons filled space with deadly light. For a moment, Minho felt hope as human weapons found their targets. Then he watched in horror as the alien ships began to change. Hull damage sealed itself in seconds. Energy shields shifted color and frequency, deflecting shots that had hurt them moments before. The Vorthak bioships were learning, adapting, becoming immune to human weapons in real time. "Sir, the Henderson is taking heavy fire," Taiho reported. On the tactical display, Minho watched one of his frigates die. The Henderson's shields failed under focused alien fire, and plasma bolts tore through her hull like paper. She exploded in a brief star, taking 200 good people with her. "Damn it," Minho whispered, then louder. "All remaining ships focus fire on the lead alien cruiser. Maybe we can hurt them before they adapt completely." The battle raged for 2 hours. Minho watched his second frigate, the Busan, ram an alien destroyer in a final act of defiance. Captain Song and his crew died as heroes, but there were still 45 enemy ships left. "Admiral, multiple civilian transports destroyed," Taiho reported, his voice breaking. "The aliens are targeting evacuation ships." Minho closed his eyes. Those were families, children, people who had never hurt anyone, who just wanted to build new lives among the stars. The Vorthak were slaughtering them like animals. "Soul's Pride, this is Park," he called to Gina. How are you holding up? Hull breaches on decks 3 through 7, came her reply. Lost main engines. We're running on backup power and pure stubbornness. The station shook again as another alien volley struck home. Through the viewing port, Minho could see sections of the outer ring venting atmosphere and debris. The shields were failing, and soon the aliens would start targeting the civilian shelters directly. Sir, Tejo said quietly. Incoming message from Earth Command. Put it through. The message was short and cryptic. Just a few words that made no sense. The Reaper is coming. Hold the line, and what does that mean? Asked Yuki. Minho shook his head. I don't know. But if Earth Command sent it, we need to buy them more time. He opened a channel to the civilian shelters. This is Admiral Park. All colonists report to deep bunkers immediately. Emergency lockdown protocols are now in effect. Admiral, Gina's voice came over the comm, strained but determined. My ship is finished. Request permission to ram the alien flagship. Minho's heart clenched. Gina was like a daughter to him. But she was right. Sol's pride was dead in space, and a ramming attack might damage Veltar's ship enough to matter. Permission granted, Captain. It's been an honor serving with you. Likewise, sir. Tell my family I kept my promise. Minho watched on the tactical display as Sol's pride turned toward the massive alien flagship. Gina pushed her failing engines past their limits, building up speed for one final strike. The alien point defense systems opened fire, tearing chunks from the human frigate. But Gina held her course, steering straight for Veltar's command bridge. At the last second, the alien flagship shifted position. Sol's pride struck the ship's side instead of the bridge, exploding in a ball of fire that left a black scar across the alien hull. Damage assessment? Minho asked. The flagship is hurt but still operational, Yuki reported. And sir, there are no more human ships on sensors. Minho was alone, the last human military officer in the system, standing in a command center that would soon be nothing but wreckage. Outside, the alien fleet was positioning for the final attack. All stations prepare for boarders, he ordered his remaining crew. We make them pay for every inch. But as he spoke, something was moving in the darkness beyond the outer planets. Something that would change everything. Something the aliens had never seen before. The Reaper was coming. The Indomitable drifted through the second Vorthak patrol zone like a shadow among stars. Captain Jiho Lee stood on the bridge, watching 3 alien cruisers move in formation ahead of them. Each ship was massive, easily 3 times the size of any human vessel. Cloak is holding steady, reported Chief Engineer Yuna Seo from her station. But we're running hot. The quantum drive is pushing our power systems to the limit. Weapons Officer Wook Jang tracked the alien ships on his tactical display. 3 cruisers, Captain. Each one carries enough firepower to level a planet. They're scanning for something, probably reports of our presence from the first patrol zone. Intelligence Officer Ki Woo-nam looked up from his console. Sir, I'm intercepting their communications. They're definitely looking for us. Word has spread about a mysterious human ship that disappeared after entering their space. Jiho nodded grimly. The Vorthak were not stupid. They knew someone was moving through their territory, even if they couldn't see exactly what. Range to the lead cruiser? He asked. 12,000 kilometers and closing, Wook replied. On the main screen, the alien ships grew larger as the Indomitable approached. Their biomechanical hulls pulsed with strange light, and weapon ports opened like hungry mouths along their sides. Sir, Yuna called out suddenly, alarm in her voice. Solar flare incoming from the local star. It's going to hit us in 30 seconds. Can we maintain cloak through it? Negative. The electromagnetic pulse will overload our cloaking system. Jiho cursed under his breath. Solar flares were unpredictable, and this one was perfectly timed to ruin their stealth approach. All hands prepare for combat, he announced over the ship's intercom. Looks like we're doing this the hard way. The solar flare struck like an invisible hammer. The Indomitable's cloaking device flickered and died, leaving them visible in the middle of the alien formation. Alarms immediately began blaring from the Vorthak ships. They've seen us, Kiwu reported. All 3 cruisers are moving to intercept. They're signaling for reinforcements. Wook, target the lead cruiser with railgun battery 1, Jiho ordered. Hyun, bring us about to attack formation Delta. Tactical Officer Hyun Ko worked his controls with inhuman speed, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to process information faster than any normal human could manage. The ship rolled and dove through space, positioning itself for the attack. Railgun charged and ready, Wook announced. Fire. The Indomitable's main railgun spoke with a voice like thunder. A tungsten slug the size of a telephone pole shot out at 20% of light speed, crossing the distance to the alien cruiser in milliseconds. The Vorthak ship's adaptive shields meant nothing against pure kinetic energy. The slug punched through the biomechanical hull like it was made of paper, tearing a hole clean through the ship from bow to stern. "Direct hit," Wook shouted. "The cruiser is breaking apart." On the main screen, they watched the alien ship come apart in sections. Biomechanical systems that had adapted to energy weapons and plasma bolts had no answer for simple physics. The cruiser died without firing a shot. Second cruiser closing fast, Hyun reported. Range 4,000 kilometers. Target acquired, Wook confirmed. Firing railgun battery 2. Another tungsten slug screamed across space. This time the Vorthak crew tried to evade, but their ship was too large and slow to avoid the relativistic projectile. The second cruiser exploded in a ball of fire as the slug hit its main reactor. The third alien ship, seeing its companions destroyed in seconds, tried to run. But Navigator Doyun Shin had anticipated this move. "Intercept course plotted," he announced. "We'll be in weapons range in 90 seconds. This one managed to send a distress signal," Kiwoo warned. "The entire Vorthak fleet knows we're here now." "Then we better make this count," Jiho said grimly. "Wook, prepare plasma torpedoes. Let's show them what human engineering can do." The plasma torpedoes were another innovation. Unlike the railguns, which relied on kinetic energy, the torpedoes used controlled antimatter reactions to create miniature suns on impact. They were the most destructive weapons humanity had ever built. "Torpedo tubes loaded and ready," Wook reported. The fleeing Vorthak cruiser was firing everything it had at the pursuing human ship. Plasma bolts and biomechanical missiles filled the space between them. But the Indomitable's enhanced shields held firm. "Fire torpedoes," Jiho ordered. 2 bright points of light shot out from the human ship, streaking toward their target like falling stars. The alien cruiser tried desperately to intercept them with point defense fire, but the torpedoes were too small and too fast. The first torpedo struck the cruiser's stern, creating a brief new star in space. The second hit the main hull and the ship simply ceased to exist, converted to energy in a matter of seconds. "All 3 targets destroyed," Wook reported with satisfaction. Chief Medical Officer Nari O moved among the crew, checking on their condition. "No casualties, Captain. The genetic modifications are working as designed." The crew handled the combat maneuvers without difficulty, but Jiho knew their victory had come at a cost. "Kiwoo, how many Vorthak ships are responding to that distress call?" "Reading massive energy signatures throughout this system," the intelligence officer replied. "At least 20 ships are converging on our position." Dr. Suabe looked up from her biological warfare console. "Captain, I've been analyzing the wreckage of those cruisers. Their biomechanical systems are more advanced than we thought. Our biological weapons will be effective, but we need to get closer to deploy them." "How much closer?" Jiho asked. "Within 500 kilometers. The virus needs direct contact with their hull systems to be effective." Doyen plotted their escape route. "Sir, we can jump to the next system in 4 minutes, but those 20 ships will be here in 3. "Then we fight our way out," Jiho decided. "All hands prepare for multiple contacts. This is what we trained for." The first wave of Vorthak reinforcements dropped out of faster-than-light travel in a burst of exotic energy. 5 destroyer-class ships, each one bristling with weapons and hungry for revenge. "Multiple contacts at bearing 270, Hyun announced. "They're spreading out to surround us." "Wook, continuous fire with all railgun batteries," Jiho ordered. "Don't let them get close enough to use their adaptive weapons." The space around the Indomitable filled with deadly tungsten slugs as all 4 railgun turrets opened fire simultaneously. The Vorthak destroyers tried to evade, but they had never faced weapons that traveled at such incredible speeds. 2 destroyers died in the opening volley. A third lost its main drive and spun helplessly through space. The remaining 2 ships tried to close distance, hoping to bring their energy weapons to bear. "Plasma torpedo spread. Fire at will," Jiho commanded. 4 torpedoes streaked out toward the remaining enemies. The aliens managed to destroy one with defensive fire, but the other 3 found their targets. 2 more brief suns bloomed in space as the Vorthak destroyers died. "Second wave incoming," Kiwoo warned. 15 ships this time, including heavy cruisers. Yuna worked frantically at her engineering station. Quantum drive is charged, Captain. But if we keep fighting like this, we'll run out of ammunition before we reach Kepler Station. Jiho made a command decision that would define the rest of the battle. We're not running. Deploy the biological weapons. All of them. Dr. Bay's hands flew over her controls. Virus canisters armed and ready. This will affect every Vorthak bioship in the system. Fire. Dozens of small projectiles shot out from the Indomitable, each one carrying a specially designed virus that would attack Vorthak biomechanical systems. The canisters were too small for the alien sensors to detect, and they spread throughout the system like invisible death. Within minutes, the effect became visible. The approaching Vorthak ships began to slow, their biomechanical hulls developing dark patches as the virus attacked their living components. Some ships started firing on their own companions as their biological computers became infected and confused. It's working, Dr. Bay reported with grim satisfaction. Their bioships are consuming themselves from the inside out. But Jiho knew they had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. They had used biological warfare against a living species. Whatever happened next, humanity had changed forever. Jump us to the next system, he ordered. We have a station to save. Captain Jiho Lee opened his eyes to darkness and cold. The cryogenic pod hissed as it released him into the world of the living. Around him, 37 other pods were opening, each one containing a member of his hand-picked crew. Welcome back to the land of the living, Captain, said Chief Engineer Uniseo as she climbed out of her pod. Even after months in deep freeze, her voice was strong and sure. Jiho stretched his aching muscles and looked around the cryo bay. The ship was silent except for the hum of life support systems. They had been asleep for 6 months, waiting for the call that everyone hoped would never come. Status report, he ordered. Tactical Officer Hyun Ko was already at his station, fingers dancing over the controls. We're in the outer Neptune system, Captain. All systems are green. The ship is ready for combat operations. The ship was the Indomitable, and she was unlike anything else in human space. While other vessels were built for exploration or trade, the Indomitable had been designed for one purpose: to kill aliens. Yuna, bring the engines online, Jiho commanded. Hyun, charge all weapons. Doyun, plot a course for the Kepler system. Navigator Doyun Shin looked up from his charts. Sir, that will take us through 3 Vorthak patrol zones. The odds of making it through undetected are... I don't care about the odds, Jiho cut him off. Kepler station is under attack. 50,000 people are counting on us. The crew moved with practiced efficiency. These were not regular Navy personnel. They were volunteers and outcasts, men and women who had been chosen for their skills and their willingness to die for humanity. Weapons Officer Wook Jang ran diagnostics on the ship's arsenal. Captain, all weapon systems are operational. The railguns are charged and ready. The railguns were the ship's primary weapons. They fired metal slugs at incredible speed, fast enough to punch through any known armor. Unlike energy weapons, they could not be adapted to or defended against. Physics was physics and kinetic energy was kinetic energy. Dr. Bay, report to the bridge, Jiho called over the intercom. Dr. Sua Bay arrived moments later, carrying a datapad filled with alien biological data. She was the ship's xenobiologist, and she knew more about Vorthak physiology than anyone else in human space. Captain, I've been monitoring Vorthak communications, she said. Their bioships have a weakness. Their living hulls require constant biological maintenance. If we can disrupt their cellular structure, their ships will literally eat themselves. Jiho nodded. And how do we do that? We have biological weapons specifically designed for this purpose. Viruses that attack their biomechanical systems. But Captain, she paused, using these weapons will change us. Once we cross that line, there's no going back. The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew what she meant. Biological warfare was forbidden by human law and custom, but then again, so was genocide. The Vorthak started this war, Jiho said quietly. They chose to murder civilians and children. If using their own methods against them makes us monsters, then so be it. Intelligence Officer Kiwoo Nam looked up from his station. Captain, I'm reading a priority transmission from Earth Command. Code Black authorization. Put it on screen. The transmission was short and to the point. The Vorthak had surrounded Kepler Station with their largest fleet ever assembled. 3 human frigates were all that stood between 50,000 colonists and total annihilation. Estimated time to arrival? Jiho asked. 18 hours if we push the engines hard, Doyun replied. but we'll have to go through Vorthak space to get there. Chief Medical Officer Nario spoke up from her station. Captain, the crew should know something about the modifications we've received. Jiho sighed. Another secret he had hoped to keep. Tell them. During our time in cryosleep, your bodies were enhanced, Dr. O explained. Improved reflexes, stronger bones, better resistance to G-forces. You can now survive combat maneuvers that would kill normal humans. Yun whistled softly. We're not entirely human anymore, are we? No, Jiho admitted. But we're still fighting for humanity. That has to count for something. The ship's experimental quantum drive came online with a deep thrumming sound that seemed to vibrate through their bones. Yuna monitored the exotic energy readings with practiced skill. Drive is stable, Captain. We can jump to faster than light speed whenever you're ready. Do it. Space twisted around the Indomitable as she jumped to quantum speeds. Unlike the traditional warp drives used by most human ships, the quantum drive bent spacetime itself, allowing them to appear to move faster than light while technically never exceeding that speed. First jump complete, Doyen reported. We're now in Vorthak Patrol Zone Alpha. Sensors show 3 enemy cruisers on patrol. On the main screen, Jiho could see the alien ships in the distance. Each one was the size of a city, bristling with biomechanical weapons and shielded by adaptive energy fields. Activate the cloaking device, he ordered. The Indomitable shimmered and vanished from normal sight. The cloaking system bent light around the ship, making them invisible to most sensors. It was another piece of alien technology that humanity had reverse-engineered and improved upon. Cloak is stable, Yuna reported, but it won't last long. The power drain is enormous. They crept through the patrol zone like ghosts, passing within a few thousand kilometers of the alien ships. Jiho held his breath as they passed the first cruiser, its biomechanical sensors sweeping space for any sign of intruders. Second jump point reached, Doyen announced, preparing to jump to Patrol Zone Beta. The quantum drive engaged again, carrying them deeper into enemy space. Each jump brought them closer to Kepler Station, but also deeper into danger. Captain, Kiwu said, his voice tense, I'm reading massive energy signatures ahead. The main Vorthak fleet is mobilizing. On the tactical display, Jiho could see hundreds of red dots converging on a single point in space. The Vorthak were gathering their strength for the final assault on Kepler Station. How long do we have? He asked. At their current speed, they'll reach the station in 14 hours, Kiwu calculated. Jiho did the math in his head. They could make it, but barely. And when they arrived, they would be facing odds that no sane person would accept. Sir? Wook said quietly. One ship against their entire fleet. Even with our advantages, the math doesn't look good. The math never looks good for humans, Jiho replied. That's what makes us dangerous. We don't know when to quit. He turned to address the entire crew over the ship's intercom. This is the captain. In 12 hours, we're going to arrive at Kepler Station. We'll be facing the largest alien fleet in history with 1 ship and 38 people. The odds are impossible. The mission is suicide. And we're going to do it anyway because that's what humans do. We don't surrender. We don't give up. And we sure as hell don't let aliens murder our families without a fight. The crew responded with grim determination. They all knew they were probably going to die. But they also knew they were going to make the aliens remember this day for the rest of their species' existence. The Indomitable jumped again, carrying her crew toward their destiny among the stars. The Indomitable dropped out of quantum speed at the edge of the Kepler system, and Captain Jiho Lee felt his heart sink at what he saw. The battle was already over and humanity had lost. Tactical assessment, he ordered quietly. Weapons Officer Wook Jang's voice was tight with emotion as he read the displays. No human ships remaining on sensors, Captain. Soul's Pride is dead in space, main hull cracked open. I'm reading debris fields where the other frigates used to be. Intelligence Officer Kiwu Nam worked frantically at his station. Kepler Station is still intact, but barely. Outer rings are venting atmosphere. I'm detecting 47 Vorthak capital ships in formation around the station. Jiho closed his eyes for a moment. They were too late. Admiral Minho Park and Captain Gina Choi were dead, along with thousands of good people who had died trying to protect innocent civilians. Any word from the station? He asked. Negative, Kiwu replied. All military frequencies are silent. The Vorthak are jamming civilian communications. Chief Engineer Yuna Seo looked up from her monitors. Captain, sensors show the alien fleet composition. 47 capital ships, including that massive flagship in the center. plus over 300 fighter craft and support vessels. Navigator Doyen Shin plotted attack vectors on his display. Sir, even with our advantages, the odds are mathematically impossible. That's not a fleet, it's an entire armada. Dr. Suabe studied the biological readings from the alien vessels. The virus we deployed in the last system won't work here, Captain. These ships are too far away and they've probably adapted their biosystems by now. Tactical Officer Hyun Ko enhanced the image on the main screen, showing the enormous Vorthak flagship at the center of their formation. That command ship is 3 kilometers long. It's bigger than some human space stations. Jiho stared at the impossible odds arrayed against them. One human ship against an armada that could conquer entire star systems. Any sane commander would retreat, call for reinforcements, and live to fight another day. But 50,000 civilians were trapped on that station, and retreat meant abandoning them to alien slaughter. All hands. This is the captain, Jiho announced over the ship's intercom. We are facing the largest enemy fleet in recorded history. They outnumber us 47-1, not counting fighters and support craft. By any reasonable measure, we should run away and let someone else handle this problem. He paused, letting his words sink in. But we're not reasonable people. We're humans, and humans don't abandon their families. We're going in. The bridge crew exchanged glances. They all knew this was suicide, but not one of them suggested retreat. Wook, arm all weapon systems, Jiho ordered. Yuna, push the engines past Redline. We're going to need every advantage we can get. Sir, Chief Medical Officer Nario spoke up from her station. Should I prepare the medical bay for casualties? Jiho looked at her with sad eyes. Doctor, if we take any serious hits from that fleet, there won't be anything left to treat. Just make sure the crew is ready for maximum combat maneuvers. The Indomitable began its approach toward the alien armada. On the main screen, the Vorthak ships grew larger as they closed distance. Each capital ship bristled with biomechanical weapons, their hulls pulsing with alien life. Range, 50,000 kilometers, Hyun reported. They've spotted us. The entire fleet is turning to face our approach. Open a channel on all frequencies, Jiho commanded. Kiwoo worked his controls. Channel open, sir. Jiho's voice echoed across space, reaching every ship in both fleets. This is Captain Jiho Lee of the Earth vessel Indomitable. We are humanity's answer to your genocide. Withdraw now or face extinction. The response came from the massive flagship. Commander Veltar's image appeared on the main screen, his yellow eyes glowing with amusement. One ship, the alien commander said in his accented English. You bring one ship against my armada and threaten us with extinction? Your species' arrogance knows no bounds. Our arrogance is matched only by our stubbornness, Jiho replied calmly. Last warning, Veltar. Leave this system or we will remove you. The alien leader threw back his head and laughed, a sound like metal scraping against stone. Very well, human. Let us see what your single ship can accomplish against the might of the hegemony. All ships destroy that vessel. Leave nothing but atoms. The Vorthak fleet opened fire as one. The space between the fleets filled with plasma bolts, biomechanical missiles, and energy beams that could melt through steel like butter. It was the concentrated firepower of an entire armada, focused on one small human ship. Evasive maneuvers, Jiho shouted. Hyun threw the Indomitable into a series of impossible turns and rolls, the ship dancing between the incoming fire like a leaf in a hurricane. The enhanced crew handled the brutal G-forces without difficulty, their modified bodies allowing them to remain conscious and functional under stress that would kill normal humans. Return fire, all weapons, Jiho ordered. All 4 railgun turrets opened up simultaneously, sending tungsten slugs screaming across space at relativistic speeds. The first volley caught 3 Vorthak cruisers completely by surprise, punching clean through their hulls before they could react. 3 confirmed kills, Wook announced with grim satisfaction. But the aliens were learning fast. The remaining ships began evasive maneuvers, making themselves harder targets. Their biomechanical hulls started adapting, growing thicker armor where the railgun slugs had penetrated their companions. Plasma torpedo spread. Maximum dispersal, Jiho commanded. 16 torpedoes shot out from the Indomitable, each one seeking a different target. The Vorthak point defense systems managed to intercept most of them, but 5 found their marks. 5 brief stars bloomed in space as alien ships died. That's 8 down, 39 to go. Hyun calculated. But the odds were still impossible, and the aliens were adapting to human tactics with frightening speed. Their return fire was becoming more accurate, and several plasma bolts had already scorched the Indomitable's hull. "Sir?" Dr. Bay called out from her station. "I'm reading massive biological activity from their flagship. Veltar is doing something to his entire fleet." On the tactical display, they watched as the Vorthak ships began to move in perfect coordination, like parts of a single organism. Their biomechanical nature was allowing them to function as one massive creature. "They're becoming a hive mind," Dr. Bay explained. "Individual ship consciousness is being absorbed into a collective intelligence centered on the flagship." Yuna looked up from her engineering station with a wild idea in her eyes. "Captain, what if we could disrupt that collective intelligence? If we could sever the connection between the flagship and the rest of the fleet?" "How?" "The quantum drive. If I overload it in a specific pattern, we can create a localized space-time distortion. It would trap their entire fleet in a gravity well." Jiho understood immediately. A gravity trap. They wouldn't be able to jump to faster than light speed or maneuver effectively. "But sir," Yuna warned, "overloading the quantum drive is extremely dangerous. If we lose containment, the artificial black hole could consume both fleets." Doyen plotted the calculations on his navigation computer. "The math works, Captain. But we'd need to get within 5,000 kilometers of their flagship to make it effective." 5,000 kilometers. Point-blank range against an armada that was already adapting to their weapons and tactics. It was beyond suicidal. "Do it," Jiho decided. "Plot a direct course for Veltar's flagship. All weapons, continuous fire. We're going to ram our way through their entire fleet." The Indomitable turned toward the massive alien command ship and accelerated to maximum speed. Plasma bolts and biomechanical missiles filled the space around them as every enemy ship focused fire on the approaching human vessel. "Hull breaches on decks 4 and 7, Nari reported. "Emergency force fields are holding. Keep firing." Jiho shouted over the sound of explosions echoing through the ship. The human ship carved a path of destruction through the alien formation, railguns and plasma torpedoes clearing the way ahead. But for every Vorthak ship they destroyed, 10 more moved to intercept them. "Range to flagship, 8,000 kilometers, Hyun announced. "Almost there," Yuna called out, her hands flying over the quantum drive controls. Beginning overload sequence. The space around them began to twist and bend as the quantum drive built up impossible energies. Stars in the distance started to shift position as gravity itself became a weapon. "This is it," Jiho said quietly. "Whatever happens next, we made them pay." The fate of 50,000 civilians and perhaps all of humanity hung in the balance as the Indomitable raced toward its appointment with destiny. The quantum drive screamed as Chief Engineer Unisio pushed it beyond all safety limits. Space-time twisted around the Indomitable like water going down a drain, and the Vorthak fleet suddenly found themselves trapped in a gravity well of humanity's making. "Gravity trap is active," Yuna shouted over the sound of tortured metal and exotic energies. "Their entire fleet is caught in the distortion field." Captain Jiho Lee watched on the tactical display as 47 alien capital ships struggled against the artificial gravity well. Their biomechanical drives, designed for normal space, could not overcome the warped physics that now held them prisoner. "They can't jump to faster than light speed," reported Navigator Doyen Shin with amazement in his voice. "And their maneuverability is cut by 70%. Weapons Officer Wook Jang was already taking advantage of the trapped enemies. "All railgun batteries, continuous fire. They can't dodge anymore." The Indomitable's tungsten slugs found their marks with deadly precision. Vorthak cruisers and destroyers died one after another, their hulls punctured by kinetic projectiles they could no longer avoid. 15 enemy ships destroyed, Intelligence Officer Kiwoo Nam reported. "But sir, the flagship is breaking free of the gravity well." On the main screen, Commander Veltar's massive command ship was using some kind of exotic drive system to push against the space-time distortion. Slowly but surely, the 3-kilometer-long vessel was pulling free of the trap. "He's adapting to our quantum effects," Dr. Suabe observed from her biological warfare station. "The flagship's biomechanical systems are evolving in real time." Tactical Officer Hyun Ko brought the ship around for another attack run. "Sir, we're taking heavy fire from the ship still trapped in the gravity well. Hull integrity down to 60%. The bridge shook as alien plasma bolts found their mark. Emergency lights flickered, and the smell of burning electronics filled the air. Medical. Teams to all sections, called Chief Medical Officer Nario. We have casualties on Deck 5. But Jiho kept his eyes fixed on the enemy flagship as it continued to break free from the gravity trap. Once Veltar escaped, he would rally his remaining ships and turn the battle back in the aliens' favor. "Wook, target the flagship with everything we have," Jiho ordered. "Plasma torpedoes, maximum yield." "Sir?" "At this range, we'll be caught in our own blast," the weapons officer warned. "Do it anyway." 8 plasma torpedoes streaked toward the massive alien command ship. Veltar's point defense systems managed to intercept 6 of them, but 2 got through. The explosions lit up space like miniature suns, scarring the flagship's biomechanical hull with deep craters. But the ship was too large to be destroyed by conventional weapons, and its living hull was already beginning to heal the damage. "Direct hit, but minimal effect," Wook reported grimly. "Sir," Veltar's voice came over the communication system. "You fight well for such a primitive species. But this ends now. All boarding craft launch." Dozens of smaller vessels shot out from the Vorthak ships, each one carrying alien warriors intent on capturing the human ship. They moved too fast for the railguns to track, weaving between the Indomitable's defensive fire. "Incoming boarders," Hyun announced. 23 craft heading straight for us. "Kiwoo, activate internal defenses," Jiho commanded. "All crew members prepare for boarding action." The alien craft struck the Indomitable's hull like missiles, boring through the armor with cutting tools and explosives. Within seconds, Vorthak warriors were pouring into the ship through multiple breach points. The corridors of the human vessel became a battleground as crew members fought desperately against alien invaders. The Vorthak were larger and stronger than humans, with 4 arms and natural weapons. But the enhanced crew of the Indomitable had advantages of their own. "Hull breaches on decks 3, 5, and 7, Nari reported as she led a medical team in defending the wounded. "Alien boarders throughout the ship." In engineering, Yuna fought off 3 Vorthak warriors while trying to maintain the quantum drive. Her enhanced reflexes allowed her to dodge their attacks while keeping the exotic energy stable. "Engineering to bridge," she called over the intercom. "I can't hold the gravity well much longer. The drive is overheating." Jiho made a desperate decision. "All hands abandon the outer sections. Fall back to the bridge and engineering. We'll make our stand here." The crew fought a running battle through their own ship, falling back from section to section as more aliens poured through the breaches. The enhanced humans could outrun and outfight individual Vorthak, but they were vastly outnumbered. "Sir," Kiwoo called out from his intelligence station, "I'm detecting something strange. The Vorthak boarding parties are slowing down. Some of them are attacking each other." Dr. Bay looked up from her biological warfare console with sudden understanding. "The virus we deployed earlier. It's been spreading through their biomechanical systems. The boarding craft carried it to the ships that weren't initially infected." On the tactical display, they watched as chaos erupted throughout the Vorthak fleet. Ships began firing on their own allies as infected biocomputers lost the ability to distinguish friend from enemy. "The hive mind connection is breaking down," Dr. Bay explained. "Their collective intelligence is being corrupted by the virus." Veltar's voice came over the communications again, but this time it was filled with rage and desperation. "What have you done to my fleet?" "We gave them a taste of their own medicine," Jiho replied coldly. "Your biomechanical technology works both ways." The alien commander's flagship was now completely free of the gravity well, but half of his fleet was either destroyed or fighting among themselves. In desperation, he ordered his ship to ram the Indomitable. "Flagship closing fast," Hyun reported. "He's going for a collision course. Can we evade?" "Not with our current damage. Hull integrity is too low for high-speed maneuvers." Yuna looked up from her engineering station with wild determination in her eyes. "Captain, I have an idea. If I can create a controlled collapse of the quantum drive, we can form a temporary black hole between our ships. It will consume both vessels unless he changes course." Jiho understood the implications immediately. "That's suicide." "Maybe, or maybe he'll blink first. The Vorthak have never faced anyone crazy enough to create a black hole in the middle of a battle." The massive alien flagship bore down on them like a living mountain, its biomechanical weapons firing continuously. The Indomitable's shields collapsed under the assault, and hull breaches appeared throughout the ship. "Do it," Jiho ordered. Yuna began the controlled collapse of the quantum drive. Space between the 2 ships began to twist and fold as gravity went insane. Stars in the background stretched into lines as space-time itself became a weapon. "Black hole forming," she announced. "Point of no return in 30 seconds. The event horizon appeared as a sphere of absolute darkness between the two ships, growing larger with each passing second. If either vessel crossed that boundary, they would be torn apart by tidal forces that no technology could resist. "Veltar, this is your last chance," Jiho broadcast to the alien commander. "Change course now or we all die together." For a moment, the alien flagship continued its approach. Then at the last possible second, it veered away from the growing black hole. "He's breaking off," Hyun reported with amazement. "The flagship is retreating." Yuna collapsed the artificial black hole before it could consume both ships. The exotic energies dissipated harmlessly into space, leaving only the two battered vessels facing each other across the darkness. "Sir," Kiwoo announced, "incoming transmission from the Vorthak flagship." Veltar appeared on the main screen, his yellow eyes filled with something the crew had never seen before in a Vorthak: fear. "Human captain," the alien said slowly, "you have proven that your species is worthy of respect. My remaining ships will withdraw from this system." "And the civilians on Kepler Station?" Jiho demanded. "They will be unharmed. This I swear by the honor of the hegemony." For the first time in their species' history, the Vorthak had been forced to surrender in battle. As the surviving alien ships limped away from Kepler Station, the crew of the Indomitable realized they had accomplished the impossible. They had faced the most powerful fleet in the galaxy, with one ship and 38 people, and they had won. But as Jiho looked at the damage to his ship and crew, he wondered what price humanity would pay for this victory. They had used biological weapons, genetic enhancement, and technology that bent the laws of physics themselves. In saving humanity, had they changed what it meant to be human? The answer to that question would shape the future of their species among the stars.